Parliament, where I have presented to the members of the House our this year's enlargement package, which we have adopted this morning. Besides that, the College also adopted the proposal to make 2023 the European Year of Skills. This is the first follow-up to the announcement made by President von der Leyen in her State of the Union address last month. This proposal will put the focus on how we can prepare our workforce so that they benefit from the new opportunities arising from the green and digital transitions. A press release with more details is being published by the spokesperson service and it's going to be available right now. The College also discussed today a communication on enforcing EU law, setting out its work to ensure that citizens and businesses can benefit from the same rights across the EU, because EU law has a real impact on the everyday life of Europeans. This is why enforcement of EU law is a top priority for the Commission. This file is expected to be adopted tomorrow through written procedure. Finally, the College also made a series of human resources appointments. We decided to appoint Mrs. Magda Kopczynska as Deputy Director General in DG Agri. Ms. Kopczynska is a Polish national and she currently serves as Director in DG Move. Likewise, we appointed Ms. Renata Nicolai as Deputy Director General in DG CNET, or DG Connect. Ms. Nicolai is a German national who has been head of cabinet of Vice President Jourova since 2014. Furthermore, Niels Berndt has been appointed Deputy Director General in DG Just. Mr. Berndt is also a German national and is currently the acting Deputy Director General in DG Just. Finally, we appointed Mr. Leopoldo Rubinacci as Deputy Director General in DG Trade. He is an Italian national and he is currently a director in the same DG. With this, I think I finish the College readout and turn to the topic of the day, which is our enlargement package. I'm very happy to present this year's package to you. Although this is a yearly exercise, each and every year, enlargement policy is very much in the limelight, and the reason for it is very simple. Enlargement policy includes all what we can offer to our partners. Enlargement policy is our geostrategic investment in our European continent's peace, stability, security, and socio-economic growth. It is in our common interest to accelerate the integration process, starting with the Western Balkans. For many years now, we have been investing to bring them closer and finally into the European Union. The EU's unanimous commitment to the EU membership perspective of the Western Balkans was reconfirmed during the June European Council meeting. At the same time, the Member States firmly called for speeding up the accession process and for further advancing the integration between the European Union and the Western Balkans. Today, I'm presenting 7 country reports for the Western Balkans and Turkey. As of next year, following the Commission opinions and in line with the European Council conclusions of June this year, we will present you 10 country reports, including Ukraine, Moldova and Georgia, as our regular reporting exercise from there on. Our reports offer a factual and fair assessment and a clear guidance to allow our partners to identify where they need to go faster in reforms to make progress. In this reporting year, a lot has been done to encourage the Western Balkans to accelerate their integration processes. This is being done through the implementation of the Stabilization and Association Agreements, the Western Balkans Economic and Investment Plan, their enhanced participation in EU programs, but also through the inclusive regional cooperation frameworks and through fostering regional economic integration that can help faster entry into the EU single market. Beyond the opportunities under the individual Stabilization and Association Agreements, regional agreements offer already the way to further integration. For example, through the energy community, the EU is opening its electricity market to the Western Balkans and to Eastern candidate countries. Or the Repower EU plan will help to reduce the EU's and the Western Balkans' dependence on Russian gas. In this year's package, we put a particular focus on the 30 billion euros economic and investment plan that we have launched 2 years ago, including a detailed overview of its implementation. Part of this funding is already well underway. In the last 2 years, under the Western Balkans Investment Framework, we started to finance 3.4 billion euros of investments over 24 flagship projects. These projects speed up the reduction of the apparent socio-economic gap between the EU and the region. The implementation of the economic and investment plan is also key in facing one of the most striking consequences of Russia's war against Ukraine, the energy crisis. We want to help our partners in the Western Balkans to improve their energy security. Therefore, we are speeding up the implementation of all projects on energy independency, energy efficiency, and energy transition. In the past year alone, for example, 6 renewable energy projects were approved for financing. The impact of these investments will be intensified when, at the same time, there is progress in the areas of rule of law, public finance management, and public administration reform. Now, let me give you a short overview on the individual countries. I understand that colleagues from the region are waiting eagerly for this. Let me start with Bosnia and Herzegovina, for which the Commission recommends that candidate status be granted by the Council on the understanding that a number of steps are taken. This is our European offer for the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We expect from the leadership of Bosnia and Herzegovina to make full use of this opportunity and to make the following reforms as soon as possible. The adaptation of the integrity amendments in the existing law of the High Judicial and Prosecutorial Council. The adoption of a new law on the High Judicial and Prosecutorial Council. Adoption of a law on courts of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Adoption of a law on prevention of conflict of interests. The enhancements of fight against corruption and organized crime. Advanced work on border management and migration management, as well as ensuring the functioning of the asylum system. Ensure prohibition of torture, notably the establishment of a national preventive mechanism against torture and ill treatment. Guarantee freedom of expression and freedom of the media. The adoption of national program for adoption of the EU acquis. Finally, the Commission also underlines that the European Council called on the leaders of Bosnia and Herzegovina to urgently finalize the pending constitutional and electoral reforms, which must be an urgent priority. Granting candidate status is an offer which comes once in a time and with very high expectations. Now, all the eyes will be on the elite of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Following the general elections of 2nd of October, we expect the leadership to be swiftly setting up the institutions in order to focus on the EU reforms. These are reforms which the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina deserve and already asked for. The Commission stands ready to step up our support and to be a reliable partner to deliver on this. The Commission also continues to monitor and report on the implementation of the 14 key priorities based on the progress on the ground, and the 14 key priorities remain unchanged and are not up for negotiations. Bosnia and Herzegovina needs to fulfill them all before being able to open EU accession negotiations. Now, turning to North Macedonia and Albania, a major milestone was the first intergovernmental conferences in July, with North Macedonia and Albania, when we could start the actual negotiations for membership. To show that there is no time to lose, the screening process immediately started on the same day, and it is proceeding smoothly. North Macedonia has made steady progress in implementing EU reforms, including in the areas of rule of law, fight against corruption and organized crime. The country needs to keep up this momentum and make use of the screening process to explore its full potential and to accelerate reforms. Albania has continued to make good progress and deliver tangible results in the implementation of the EU-related reforms. This is particularly true with regards to the comprehensive justice system reform and the advancement of the vetting process, which has continued to advance at a steady pace. The country has shown high level of commitment to strengthen the rule of law, to fight corruption and organized crime. Turning to Montenegro and Serbia, both countries decided on their own to apply revised methodology. In both cases, our clear assessment is that an overall balance in the negotiations, in line with the negotiating frameworks, is currently ensured. For Montenegro, the priority for further overall progress in the accession negotiations remains the fulfillment of the so-called interim benchmarks of the rule of law chapters. And in order to reach this milestone, Montenegro needs to address the outstanding issues, including reforms in the freedom of expression and media freedom, fight against corruption and organized crime, and ensuring the functionality and credibility of the judiciary. Serbia made important advancement on its EU accession path with the opening of negotiations on the Cluster 4 last year, and this was based on the constitutional reform in the area of judiciary. Following the elections, we are expecting the formation of a new government to continue and deepen reforms, in particular in the key areas of judiciary, fight against corruption and organized crime, media freedom, freedom of assembly, and the domestic handling of war crimes. Our assessment is that an overall balance is currently ensured between progress under the rule of law chapters and normalization of relations with Kosovo on the one hand, and the progress in the accession negotiations across chapters on the other. This balance will continue to determine the overall pace of the accession negotiations. In the current geopolitical context, it is also clear that Serbia needs to step up its efforts in aligning with EU positions in foreign policy, including declarations and sanctions, in line with the negotiating framework. Kosovo enjoyed political stability through the year, and the authorities continue to demonstrate their commitment to the European path. During the reporting period, Kosovo made efforts to strengthen democracy and the rule of law and intensified its fight against corruption. On visa liberalization, the Commission stands by its assessment of July 2018 that Kosovo has fulfilled all the benchmarks. The proposal is still pending in the Council, as you know, and we welcome that the discussions are about to restart. We are supporting the discussions with a technical update of our assessment. The normalization agreement with Serbia is urgent and crucial to enable Kosovo and Serbia to advance on their respective EU paths. We are, of course, supporting this process, but we need full engagement, both from Belgrade and Pristina, in a constructive way to make this dialogue successful. Finally, on Turkey, the EU's relations with Turkey remain complex. On the one hand, the accession negotiations remain at a standstill, as the assessment of the Commission confirmed that the negative trend of moving away from the European Union in key areas of fundamental rights, rule of law, and independence of the judiciary has not changed. Tensions with some member states increased again in 2022. The June 2022 European Council expressed deep concern about recent repeated actions and statements by Turkey, and it reiterated that Turkey must respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all EU member states, and it emphasized that the European Council expects Turkey to fully respect international law, de-escalate tensions in the interest of regional stability in the Eastern Mediterranean, promote good neighbourly relations in a sustainable way. On the other hand, the Commission's assessment also confirmed that Turkey remains a key partner for the EU and a candidate country. Dialogue and cooperation continued in essential areas of joint interest, such as climate, counterterrorism, energy, food security, migration, public health, regional issues, trade and transport. Now, the current geopolitical challenges make it ever more relevant to work closely together, for instance, on energy or food security. Turkey played a key role in brokering direct negotiations between Russia and Ukraine in the July grain deals, and it continues to be an important and reliable transit country for the energy security of Europe. However, it has also decided to increase trade and financial relations with Russia and has not aligned with EU restrictive measures. This is a cause for increasing concerns that requires close EU monitoring. And of course, now I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. There are a number of hands up already. Yes, please start.
Thank you, Dusan Gajic, Radio Television of Serbia. Mr. Commissioner, you said in the Parliament that the alignment of Serbia with the CFSP is a very important element, but should not be the only or something that should determine the pace of negotiations. Do you think that despite the decline of alignment, that Serbia could make progress and open some new chapters, or actually a cluster, as you maintained your recommendations that cluster 3 should be opened? So how this fact of non-alignment could affect the process and the progress of Serbia, in your view? Thank you.
Well, you are misquoting me a bit on this. This is not what I said. What I said was that the CFSP alignment itself is not a cause over which accession negotiations could be suspended. That was the question in the European Parliament. Because it wouldn't be true to say that it does not affect, as you said, the pace of the negotiations. It does, because this is part and parcel of the negotiating framework. That, of course, when we're looking at the progress made by any candidate country, CFSP alignment is one of the elements we're going to be looking at. So it does have an impact on the pace. And I think you can see it. We have another cluster which could be opened, but the conditions are not there to work with that in the Council, because our member states are very much attached to this issue, especially when Europe needs its allies to help. So we need Serbia to help us, because we need all the allies that we have, and candidate countries are our most important allies. Thank you.
Thank you. Oliver.
Hi, Commissioner, over there. Oliver Grimm with the Austrian newspaper, Die Presse. I have a question on Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'm a bit astonished, to say the least, to learn that you're in favour of granting Bosnia and Herzegovina the candidate status, because I think, to paraphrase you, you said yourself this is sort of an offer, more or less a gift to a country that shows the willingness to join. It's a one-off thing and should be taken seriously. I didn't have too much time to read the 38 pages, because we didn't get them early enough as journalists here. But only the introduction says that basically the country hasn't made any progress at all on the things that they committed to last June. They didn't even manage to start a general administration reform. I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing back to you. The political system there is completely blocked. The parliament isn't even in favor of introducing reforms on, integrity of the judicial system and so forth and so forth. And not even the carrot of giving money works, because the first installment of your macro financial system was paid out last October. The second installment couldn't be paid because the country didn't commit to the political commitments, the policy commitments you asked them to do. So my question to you is, why do you think is it honest on the part of the EU towards the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina, the youth especially, that's fleeing this dysfunctional country, to say that, yeah, well, we're going to give a candidate status, but actually there's no real follow-up and there's no real political will, because there won't be unanimity for this. How do you come to the conclusion that candidate status is now the right thing to do? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. First of all, I would argue with your statement in the question that there was no progress. Yeah, but you said yourself you haven't read the report. So read the report, because you will find the elements of progress. I can list you a couple. In the case of Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have been using negative leverages already, and now we want to use the positive leverages. With the negative leverage, we have achieved that the institutions returned to fully functioning over the summer, from spring. Then, very important laws and agreements. Sorry, I must have swallowed something.
Time to drink some water. He had a long session in the parliament before.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, they have been able to come to agreement on very important issues, like the amendment of the public procurement law. This was done just before elections. Like joining EU programs, like joining our civil protection mechanism. These were long outstanding issues over which they have been able to agree. And don't forget that the country was in an election campaign mode. In no country you would find legislative activity at its peak in a campaign period. But we put very high hopes that also with our engagement, the reforms that are outstanding, and I agree with you, these are the outstanding ones, in the new parliament and with the new government will be taken fast and serious. On our side, we are ready to commit. And this is why I think it's an honest offer, because the country deserves it. It's not, and this is why I'm telling you, this is not an offer for the political class. This is an offer for the country.
Thank you. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ivan Mijanovic from the television of Montenegro. You said that the fulfillment of interim benchmarks in chapters 23 and 24 is the key for Montenegro advancing to the European path. Do you expect that Montenegro could fulfill these criteria till the end of the year, as was said by Montenegrin authorities before? And if I may, another question, do you agree with the statements that this report is worse than the one that was published 5 years ago? Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know whose statement you are alluding to. Maybe you could tell me. But on the interim benchmark, this is a well-known issue. Also in last year's report, that was the main outstanding issue. But because of the lack of clear majority in the parliament, not to mention a clear majority behind the government Montenegro has now, there is no progress for over 3 years now. I do hope that the political class in Montenegro finally understands that they are interdependent. And without cooperation, the country will not be able to deliver. If they commit to deliver by the end of the year, it would be excellent, and we are ready to help. But my experience over the last 3 years points to the other direction. So we will see how does it play out. If they deliver, we are happy and ready to move fast.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Jovana Đurišić, Montenegrin Daily Pobjeda. Relations with the Serbian Orthodox Church are also mentioned in the report. Do you think that, giving priority to the signing contract with Serbian Orthodox Church instead of working on reforms had a negative influence on the reforms and had a negative influence on report overall? Thank you.
I don't think so. I think it is an important development that there was this agreement concluded between the church and the government. And I do hope that with this also more political stability can be created, because obviously this issue has been looming around for a number of years. And I do hope that with this agreement, finally this problem could be put to bed and they can concentrate on the real issues in front of the country, which is fighting organized crime and corruption and dealing with the interim benchmarks under the rule of law chapters.
Thank you. I will now turn to the colleagues waiting to ask questions online, and I will give the floor to Tanya, please.
Thank you. I hope you hear me. Tanya Milevska. Commissioner, in the key findings on North Macedonia, it's interesting to see that the only area which has limited progress is actually the freedom of expression and the media. So could you care to comment more on freedom of expression and media and the issue of self-regulation and professional standards in journalism? And on energy security, as you mentioned in the beginning, the Macedonian president asked the president of the Commission for a sort of compensation for the electric energy that it will get from Bulgaria, since the market price is too high to pay for North Macedonia. So I would like to know if you've been informed by both presidents on this, and if you can say something. Are you working on it? And finally, a comment on the opening of Bulgarian clubs with the names of fascist collaborators that have stirred serious concerns in the country. Thank you.
Well, on the freedom of expression, I think what we're looking for is still legislative reform that is still outstanding. It's been an issue for a number of years now, and I do hope that finally the opposition and the government coalition can find a way to agree in the parliament on these reforms. On the energy security, I was informed by only one president, our president, of course, about this issue. We're working on it. We're working for a broader energy rescue package for the entire Balkans. And we try to come with this very, very fast. Hopefully, we should be able to present it to the leaders of the Western Balkans in Berlin on the 3rd of November at the Berlin Process Summit, where we're looking into ways how we could help them in meeting the immediate short-term and mid-term needs when it comes to creating alternative supplies of energy, be it electricity or gas, how to help interconnections, be it gas or electricity, and how to also help them to boost investments and availability of green energy in the region. On top of this, we're also looking into the energy efficiency area, how we could speed up retrofitting of buildings also for the public, so that we can help where the most need is. As you know, in these regions, these huge Soviet-style apartment buildings are the biggest wasters of energy, and only through creating more energy efficiency for them, we can significantly reduce not only the energy consumption, but also the pollution. So there's a plan coming up, and in that, of course, we are looking into the specific issue related to North Macedonia. I don't want to comment on different clubs, posters, marks on walls when it comes to this bilateral issue between Bulgaria and North Macedonia. What I do hope, though, is that with agreeing the negotiating framework and having the first political IGC and the political agreement that enabled us to get there also creates a different climate, political climate and public climate, and also creates the necessary political framework to deal with these issues. And I do encourage both sides to be open, to be forthcoming, and to be engaging within the framework that we have created. I see already some positive signs emerging, and I think we should put our trust in our friends in Sofia and also in our friends in Skopje, that they will finally start to change the whole atmosphere between the two countries.
Thank you very much. I will take one more question from the chat. That is Esmir.
Thank you for giving me floor. Commissioner, question for you regarding Bosnia and Herzegovina. You have said that you're taking with this decision a leap of faith, and that the leaders understand when the stakes are high to make decisions. But my question is, what do you expect from them now to do, but be precise, and until when? Because you said that you are expecting that the Council will make a decision in December, but what will be after December? What do you expect from leaders in Bosnia and Herzegovina? And also, what do you expect precisely of them when it comes to the constitutional reforms and electoral law reforms? Thank you.
I think it is only clear that it is not the Commission who sets the agenda of the Council. We are making our proposals, and as I said, I think the first or the earliest convenience for the Council would be in December to deal with this issue at the European Council. I do hope that by then, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we will have a new parliament established. We will have governments established at state level, federal level, and at canton level. I do hope that the laws that we have been including in our opinion will start to be tabled in the parliaments, and that work will immediately take off. And I do hope that by December we will have a completely different landscape in terms of political cooperation and in terms of work in the legislature. So I think what needs to be done is very clear. It is in the report, and we will immediately engage with the Bosnian authorities to help them to deliver on those.
All right, let's move on. Yes, please go ahead.
Mr. Varhelyi, you have submitted recently to member states the new report on visa issue for Kosovo, which will be object of discussion tomorrow in the working group. Since this is the fourth recommendation of European Commission, do you have any credible reason to believe that now things are happening and moving towards the right direction? And second question on Serbia, given what you just stated, that conditions are not there because member states are very much attached to CFCP alignment, is it fair to say that the continuation of the process is pending this alignment, meaning that accession talks are basically on ice now?
I start with the second question. I didn't say that they were pending. No, it wouldn't be fair to say. On the contrary, reforms are advancing, and so does the accession negotiations. So they're not pending. But if Serbia would want to accelerate its own accession, of course, the low-hanging fruit would be to address the CFSP alignment issue, because that can create quite a positive atmosphere on the side of member states to accelerate the pace of the negotiations. On the visa liberalization, we have provided an update. So this is not an assessment, this is an update of our assessment. Whether this will work out, of course, remains to be seen. Now, for a commissioner to comment on working group level work, it might be a bit far-fetched, let me put it this way. But real decisions are going to be made, I think, elsewhere. And this is why it is very important that the work in Kosovo didn't stop. On the contrary, the work in Kosovo has been also extended to other aspects, meaning fighting smugglers, fighting organized crime, fighting corruption, delivering on the ground, and also presenting the results of this work systematically to the member states, just like we suggested. And this confidence building, I do hope, will pay dividends still this year.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, Nikola Radushic, N1 Television. Mr. Varhelyi, you stated that Serbia's alignment rate with EU foreign policy substantially decreased, basically from 68 to 45% this year. Can it be considered as backsliding in Chapter 31? And can it have any negative consequences towards Serbia, having in mind the new methodology and the reversibility of the process, as you stated that many times? Thank you.
I think this is the third time or the fourth time I get the same question. As I said, the alignment rate of Serbia is cause for concern. If you read our report, you will find that our assessment is that there is a backsliding. So it's clear. I also explained to you that it is not the CFSP on the basis of which, CFSP alignment, on the basis of which the mechanisms that are foreseen in the new methodology, for example, for suspension, could be triggered. This is not how the rules are in the methodology and in the negotiating framework. Still, for our member states, these are issues that they feel very strongly about, and of course it affects their approach to Serbia's European path.
I will now take the last question, and that will be from Dragan, connected online.
Do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Dragan.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner, Serbian President Vučić said that France and Germany proposed to Belgrade government, to admit, to accept Kosovo membership in the United Nations, not to recognize, but to admit. And Serbia, in that case, will get speedy entry in the European Union and considerable economic benefits. Is it also that the proposition of the European Union and the European Commission? And how, in that case, it will be reached through the framework of dialogue, or? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as President Vučić explained, he received this proposal from France and Germany. So I think best would be to talk to Paris or Berlin about this. We are not aware of such a proposal. Of course, if there is such a proposal, we will be more than interested to look at it. And not only to look at it, but maybe we could even contribute.
Thank you very much. This concludes the press conference. Sorry for the questions that I couldn't take, but the Commissioner needs to move on to his next meetings. Thank you and see you tomorrow.